let's get started. Welcome everybody to episode number 6 of Comeback Conversations. I am in the office today. It is an honor. It is a pleasure with my friend Rich Specht. I have known Rich now for just about 3 years when I started. I think Rich has been around a month or so longer than me. Rich is one of the first guys that I met inside of this thing, and when I first met him, I thought he was an asshole. I had put some comment out inside of our chat, and he responded with directness and with honesty. And where I was when I started my comeback, I did not like directness and honesty. Obviously, where I'm at now, very different. I love directness and honesty, and Rich Specht is the king of it. So welcome, Rich. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be, a conversation like Mark trusts, I guess, Rich and I to really lead this movement at this point, which is a tremendous amount of trust, and it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's beautiful. So we're going to get into a lot of different things. I want to start by getting kind of your origin story a little bit. Obviously, I know your origin story, but this thing is really geared for guys that are maybe just getting started in this process. So just to give a little background on yourself, and the other thing I want to do is really I want to talk from our standpoint. Where do guys go off the tracking side of this thing? Where do guys not maximizing this? Where does this thing what are some kind of tools and techniques and the best way to maximize? We talk about it a lot in the group, but guys, they're not always paying attention when they get in the door. But for starters, Rich Specht, tell these guys down the road what you're all about. Where'd you start? What was it like before you got inside of this thing?
What was it like before I got inside of this thing? That's an interesting question, Dave. You know the answer to that, but I'm going to regurgitate it here. I found Mark's ad 3 years ago, right? Just before you, May of 2019. Prior to that, I was shit. And I could tell you the first time I remember drinking a beer is sitting on my Uncle Dave's lap in Astoria. And he had this little corner chair and the family TV in there. And he lived at my grandmother, my aunt. And that was it. We go there every Sunday. And he used to drink Black Label beer. And I used to sit on his lap and he'd let me sip his beer. That was my first introduction into it. I wasn't a degenerate back then. I didn't make any bad decisions, but I was surrounded by a lot of bad decisions as a kid. And my father's gone now, but the reality of it was always in my life. Alcohol was always in my life. It was in every family event. It was it was just what it was. You just observed, and ultimately. Was it hitting home? Was I like, is that what I wanted to do? Am I going to drink every weekend like my parents? My father used to go to the beer store, and I'd buy a case of beer on Thursday night, and then Saturday afternoon, he'd go pick up another case. In high school, when all my buddies worked at the beer distributor, it became embarrassing. This is probably a weird conversation, but if you got to know Rich Specht, you got to know where I came from. Baseball was a big thing for me as a kid, and my dad's whole side of my dad's family baseball was their game, and my Uncle Dave, who, and I'll get to that in a second, was a really good baseball player. Got out of high school and had a tryout for the Yankees, and didn't go. Joined the Marines, and that was his life. Went to United Auto Workers. Never chased a dream. Never chased anything. Lived with my grandmother. And 42 years old, fell asleep at the wheel in front of LaGuardia Airport on the way home at like 4 o'clock in the morning, broke his neck, and was in a hospital for 4 months before he finally died of pneumonia from that broken neck. Obviously, the family never said Uncle Dave was drunk. I was 10 at the time, maybe 11. And, you kind of knew. He used to come out to our house and wash his car on the weekends from Queens because water was cheaper on Long Island. And there was one occasion where they actually took my uncle's keys away from him. Like, I came down on Sunday morning, and there he was, like, sleeping on the couch. But nobody talked about why Uncle Dave was sleeping on the couch. He just didn't feel well. I got to observe a lot of bad decisions as a kid. My dad driving. Everybody always stopped like an hour before it was time to leave. And so I don't blame my family for anything, but my origin is that it was always around me in my life. And at some point I was going to start making bad decisions because that was what I observed. Not their fault, but it's what I observed. Now we fast forward years later, and pre-comeback, and now this is to the guys, where my head was at just before I saw Mark's ad was, I always thought about those things. I always thought about the stupid things that I did with my buddies back in college, surfing on the top of our car, like all of the things where, like, blessed to have fucking survived those things while we were having fun. And here my kids were getting close to that age where they were getting ready to start facing those decisions. And here I was waking up Monday morning, head pounding, thinking about the example that I had set the weekend before, and completely just ignoring the fact that, you probably should do something, asshole. And I didn't. I just kind of ignored it. I get the hang of it. The things we talk about, Dave, we'll get, next time after this vacation. This will be the last vacation where I kind of fuck it up. So when I came in to the comeback, I had been in a cycle of like, dude, you better figure this thing out. Your daughter's about, to go to college. Your son Richie's going to start driving soon. You don't think they notice that, you're drinking beers before you hit the car on the way home? So that weekend before I saw Mark's ad was Memorial Day weekend, and we put the boat in the water and proceeded to drink on Friday out on the boat with the kids. And then Saturday at family party with the kids. And then Sunday I went home and I watched Top Gun with Owen. I was sitting on the couch, just Owen and I sitting there on this couch. And there's a beer left in the house, so I drank a bottle of red wine with Owen while I'm sitting there watching Top Gun. Loving the movie, great movie. And he's having a blast, and he has no idea because he's, 6.5, 7 at the time. And 2 days later, I saw Mark's ad on Facebook. I had Memorial Day, wasn't going to drink. I drank that day too. And then woke up Tuesday morning and was hungover and decided to stay home with the kids. And that was that night. I saw Mark's ad on Facebook. And if I had seen it before, I was never in a position to register I should probably do something about this. Just scroll. I booked the call for Friday, so I pushed it out a couple of days. But where I was mentally at that time was I was ready. I had gone through enough of that decision point. Man, you better figure this out. Man, you better figure this out. And I kicked it down the road. And thank God every day that I saw that ad, that I answered Mark's ad. The most important thing though was obviously that I took action. Mark convinced me to take action, not in a way of anything other than how's this storyline going to change. So in my head, I knew the storyline, where it was headed, the example that I was setting, but I needed somebody to kind of go, hey, asshole, there's a way. Yeah. Where do guys trip up? I'm flipping the...
I want to go back to something, and I think I'm writing stuff as you're saying it. Nobody talked about it. When you and I have had this conversation a bunch of times in our youth as we're growing up, there was a lot of stuff going on around us that we saw as this might be fucked up. I don't know for sure. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't look like the way adults should be. But also, it's super fucking normal. Also, I see it every single Saturday. I see it every single holiday, every single birthday. It's a baptism for a baby, fucking 2-month-old baby. And this is what's going on, and nobody talked about it. I want to ask you this one, what was it like, at home for you during those days, again, pre-comeback? It's not something people talk about, right? Let's just kind of brush it away. Let's just kind of brush it away.
Yeah. That's what you do, right? You get a little bit better. You don't get as bad as you did the last time, but yet you constantly continue the same behaviors. At some point, you got to pay the piper. At some point, something's going to happen. And you either skirt by for, you've said it before, dance between the raindrops. How long are you going to dance between the raindrops before something happens? When I was 22 years old, I was a pilot, right? But I graduated college and I spent 9 months hanging out at the bars with my buddies. And I ultimately got pulled over one night and, lost my driver's license. Didn't lose my pilot's license, but that was it. That was, for me, in my head, that was the end of my career. Now it's time for plan B. But kind of lost track there where you were going with that. You'll edit this out later, right?
Well, the idea of, so for me, my parents didn't talk about shit. There was stuff that I saw that I thought the following morning, holy shit, there's going to be a fucking divorce happening here. There's going to be some repercussions from the behavior that I saw. Some of it was dark, right? I don't know if my parents are going to see this down the line, but I guess I don't give a fuck. There was a night where my dad literally had a fucking knife to my pregnant mom. My sister's 11 years younger than me, so I must have been 11. Literally, I'm going to fucking cut the baby out. I saw that as a 10 or 11-year-old kid. I'm like, wow, this is serious. get up in the morning, like all the rest of my siblings, I'm the oldest of five, so the first four of us are like, holy shit, like who are we gonna live with? What the fuck is Christmas gonna be like? What's it gonna be like to live in that life, right? Like we know what it's like to have, the two parents at home, but what's it gonna be like when we do all four of us stay together? Like, are we in different, like, but the idea behind getting up in the morning ready for like massive amounts of change, because something big happened last night, and then literally nothing happened. Nobody talked about anything. It's get up, he goes to work, my mom goes about her day, we go to school. And what I took away from that is like, if you just don't talk about it, like maybe it goes away, maybe it fucking changes. And then in my head as a kid, I'm like, well, fuck, did I see things wrong? Did something not actually happen that I thought happened? And it creates all these doubts in my mind of like, fucking, what's reality? As I get older now and I'm parenting, like I took a lot of those same principles when I was, previous to my comeback. If we don't talk about this shit, it probably goes away. And then my wife kind of came along on that thing. Like we would talk occasionally about like something really big that got out of control, but I was conditioned to just not fucking talk about it, and it'll probably go away. And then that's what I started bringing into my my house as a dad.
Yeah. No, there was nothing talked about. There were tons of incidents as kids. I could think about being family vacations, and we spent 2 weeks in a car in California, and there I was sitting as we're driving through the desert. I'm in the back seat. I'm 9 years old at the time, and I'm pouring beers into red Solo cups, handing them up to the front of the car. That wasn't a problem. Like that was just mom and dad driving across the desert with a couple beers. But when we got to Anaheim, and I remember my mother trying to get us into this hotel, something happened with the reservation. We were having a hard time getting in. And there's my dad standing in the hotel lobby with a brown paper bag and a beer in it. And I remember my mother going, really? Like, you can't fucking wait? But that was it. Like, that was the conversation. 3 days earlier, we're in Sequoia National Park. And my brother and sister will see this, they'll laugh and then they'll fucking punch me. We were at an outdoor nature presentation, and the event ended, and standing next to my mother and my brother and sister, my dad is off to the side, and he walks past like the stage where the microphones are, and he just lifts his leg and he rips like this massive fucking fart, echoing through the canyons of Sequoia National Park between the redwoods. And I'm standing there with my brother and sister, and we go, Dad! Now, obviously my mother's standing there, and she gets this mortified look on her face, and she just yells, Richie! So that night we walk back to the cabin that we had rented. My brother and sister and I were in this other room, and there was all hell breaking loose, like just pillows over the ears. My mother called us in after that fight to say that everything's okay, but if my dad ever embarrassed her like that again, that she was going to, and she used the word divorce word, like, I'm going to divorce him. But that was it, like, end of conversation. Go fast forward a couple of years, incident at Oktoberfest where my mom drove home to take a pee. My dad decides he's going to walk home with us. We come home. My mother's ripping up. She's throwing beer cans all around the house. Like, we found him like buried in the plants for months, like literally. And I remember being up in my bedroom, wrapped the pillow around my head. I was probably 12 or 13 at the time, just praying that this would stop. All right. Remember these things. And I'm obviously not the only person in this comeback that has probably had events like this in their life. But again, as we get into our adult life, was it as really as bad? When I was a kid, maybe I made more of it than it really was. And then you start to repeat those behaviors and those patterns. And at some point you have to decide whether that's how you want to live. That's how you want to lead your family. That's where I was headed. From my side of the table, that's where I was headed.
Well, I think, as I go through, we're on this journey, the profoundness of the ability of shaping people's worlds, right? So you and I, our worlds were shaped, right, by the way we grew up, by the things we saw, the things we read, movies, everything, whatever it was. And then we started shaping other people's worlds, our kids' worlds, our wives' worlds, based on the way we were shaped. And it was unintentional, right? Like, I didn't get up in the morning with any intention. I just did what I did yesterday. And it's all this like subconscious, whatever programming. And now that we have the opportunity that we do, as comebacks ourselves, right? We're comebacks through and through. We do this shit every single fucking day. This is not part-time. This isn't fucking slapdick stuff. Like, you and I live this life inside and out. And to be able to step back and say, I have the same ability to implant memories into my kids at 8, 10, 11 years old that were implanted into me. And you and I consciously, I know how you conduct yourself with your kids, like consciously put that effort into, like, put those memories in this kid that he has in 80 years, just like people slapdick style gave us memories that we carry around with. So for guys inside of this comeback, understand, like, the legacy is created inside of every single action that you take with your kids every day. I talk about it all the time, but the stuff that I do with my kids at 11 and 8, I really do intend for them to remember this shit for 80 years, and I intend for them to be fucking positive memories. Our parents, right, and it's not to blame, our parents, right, but like, everybody did the best they could. They just weren't as intentional. And inside of this comeback, we preach that level of intentionality. We talk about that future F, the legacy. That legacy is created tonight when you're sitting down and having dinner with your kid. Like, you're asking questions, you engaged, you give a fuck, or you hiding in a basement. And when you can flip it to, the point, I think, for me, getting out of this, the early part of this conversation, that was done so unintentionally, and implanted thoughts, gave us memories, created legacies, just, kind of willy-nilly. And now that we're where we are, we're doing that with our kids intentionally, right? You guys have the opportunity to be intentional with your time inside that family F, inside that future F. It's fascinating to think of how, like, I didn't give a shit about that for a really long time. Just get through the day.
We are a product of our environment as kids, right? Ultimately, you are, whether it's you grew up in an angry household, you grew up in a household where, my wife's family, Janine's family, is not a family that says, I love you, right? They don't walk around and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. Just, you never heard that. I don't think I've ever heard one of her siblings say that to another one. Where in my house, you heard it all the time, but yet the actions always didn't match what you said. So in my house, saying I love you was a kind of like a fix-all. Like, this gets into relationships here, but this is, we talk about where we come from. You fuck up. As long as you could say I love you at the end of it, everything was good. Forget about the beer cans thrown around the house. Forget about the fact that I left you up at the school. Forget about all those things. That in my wife's family, it's service. It's like, just fucking do it. Like, just take action. So it's in my wife's heart, she's more come back than I am at some levels. Because just shut up and do it. Just shut up and do it, asshole. Don't tell me about it. Just do it and get it done. Last thing I'll say about my family and my dad is, at some point, almost lose interest in your parents. I did. My dad, baseball, like I said earlier, baseball was the biggest thing in my life. I didn't, in my family, when I decided I really didn't love playing baseball anymore, that I'd rather play street hockey with my friends, it hurt my dad a lot. Played high school basketball. I think it was probably 10th grade. My dad showed up to a Sunday game and, had a couple glasses of wine, and, it's kind of embarrassing. We forbid my dad from coming to any more of our basketball games because he couldn't conduct himself. Like, he wasn't a buffoon, but it was just like, when Dad's had a couple. You see his face, he had like his 5 o'clock face when he'd come through the front door, right? It'd look a certain way. And after 2 or 3 beers, like, the muscles in the face just kind of change. Had a totally different look. I'm sure I had a totally different look to my kids and to Janine. They were young enough, maybe they didn't put their fingers on it, but we are a product of where we come up. But at some point, we have to make a decision. Is that how we want to live? And that ultimately is where the comeback comes in. That's where the blueprint comes to. When we talk about the 7 Fs, if I'm being truthful in my life and I'm taking an action that doesn't help me accomplish one of these goals, why am I doing it? What is the longer term payoff to me taking this action? Is it helping my kids? Is it helping my wife? Is it helping all of these things? It's not complicated, Dave. You and I both know it's not complicated, but some people just insist to keep alcohol in their lives because they just don't know any other way. And they don't want to know any other way. I have a right. I have a privilege to drink.
The return to the pit. You talk about that one in a second, but when did drinking not become fun for you anymore? Like you were the weekend warrior, the guy on the boat, the guy on Monday morning in the office. Like you were, it's funny. Like you were a guy. Like if you and I worked in the same office, you were a guy that I would have looked up to and thought, man, this guy's got it all together. He can drink on the weekends, and he looks a little puffy on Monday. Maybe didn't come in on Monday, but you would look like a guy to me that had it all together. You knew that you didn't. Right? We're all the best fucking liars in the universe. But like, when did drinking in your mind just not? Like, dude, this isn't fucking fun anymore. Like when did the fear or the risk or the terror sometimes of doing the boat shit, of that lifestyle, like when did that flip to like, this is not fucking fun?
I don't think it flipped until I stopped. I look back and you have these watershed moments where you're like, well, that was probably when the fucking alarm should have went off. Like, holy crap. Like that was that moment. Like, wow, Rich, like you in your head, like for all the times that I that I drank, around family and friends, like you wake up the next day and go, holy shit, like, wow, I got away with one last night. Whether it's driving, whether it's, a decision that you made, whether it's a text you sent. They happen all the time, but you don't feel motivated to change. And the instant that you have that, for me, that next drink, all sins were forgotten until we get through this night. I just think about times where, I could drink alone, I could drink with friends, it didn't matter. And there were a couple occasions where I look back and I'm like, man, I wish something in the universe had told me to take a step back. Where it's funny when you grow up in school, right? And they show you these videos about alcoholism, and they talk about, when you if you're hiding your drinking, you're an alcoholic, or you know what? Yeah, you are. You have something wrong if you're hiding. If you have to hide it, there's something wrong. And yet I ignored it. There were times when I was hiding it, like, play darts in the basement with my brother-in-laws, and like, it looked like I was having two, and I'd have four, like, before you know it, like, just, whoa, God, I hope nobody walks in as I'm chugging this one. So towards the end, the last couple of years, it was still fun, but it became work, because I wanted more, I needed more. That 12-pack was no longer sufficient. The 12-pack became an 18-pack, became, and maybe there was some vodka in the fridge or something. You'd have a little sip or something. It stopped. It wasn't the fun that it was made out to be. And I think that's the part now, as I sit in this chair, is helping guys realize that it's not all bad, but it's probably 99% bad compared to the 1% good that you remember that being. And that in order for you, it's been 3 years. We go out tonight. Am I going to have a beer? Probably not, but could I? Yeah. The wheel's going to fall off the wagon. There's no fucking wagon, Dave. We say it 1,000 times. But it wouldn't bring me any value. I'd be doing it just to do it. We used to have a coach around here that talked about having a cheers. If it's going to make somebody else comfortable, I'll do it. And it always made me cringe.
For the record, I think that's one of the lamest reasons on earth.
And I love the guy. But no, you're not going to make me do anything I don't want to do, because it's just going to make you feel good in that respect. I'm not going to put poison in my body so that you feel comfortable with the decision that you're making. The person in the casket doesn't give a fuck if you're cheering them or not. Nobody does. I hate to break it to you. I'm not in the afterlife. I don't have an insight into, what's going on up in heaven, if you believe in heaven. But I can guarantee you, no one's up there. Attaboy! Kill that bottle of Jameson for me, laddie. Fuck off. You can edit that out later.
So it stopped being fun when it started to feel like work. I think that's fucking amazing. I think that's, you just, in my mind, captured this intensity that I had, during those days of like, you can't just sit down and have a drink, man. Like, it's a fucking race. It's a race to the top, race to the bottom, however you want to look at it. And it was like, let me go in the house. I'll be back getting a beer, right? We're at the pool. I got 3 minutes. I can probably shotgun a beer. I could take a shot. You know what? Let me shotgun a beer, take a shot, and then shotgun another beer, and then walk out with like this fucking intensity, this need to like ramp up. Like, what like that was work. And then that created more work for me to cover up. That created sloppiness at 4 o'clock in the afternoon that is just more obvious than sloppiness at 7 or 8. And like, I just love the way we've talked a million times, never put it this way. Like it stopped being fun when it started to feel like work. And then why are we working so hard on this? Like, what's the need?
Yeah, this isn't the I'm a degenerate hour, but I mean, I could think about those times in the last 3 years where my behaviors were like if I had seen like if you'd given me a book like, hey Rich, here's all the things you're going to do down the road to drink, like, you know, here's that list, you know, maybe you start thinking about your relationship with alcohol, like, you know, ordering the pizza on the way to the pizza place so that you have to wait an extra 10 minutes. And what do you do at a pizza place? You have maybe have a slice, or, well, you know, and you have a beer. Like, you know, these are the things, like the little things, like, wow, it became that fucking important, like, for me to have that extra, you know, that extra drink. And for what? Like, I look back and I'm like, for what? Like, what was the benefit to that? To be more fucked up at the end of the night? To have a bigger headache the next day, or to get away with it? Like, I really, you know, I've had guys ask me like, Rich, it's really been 3 years since you've had a drink. And I'm like, yeah, it has been. Because when you do this work every day and you're honest and you think about it, for me, it brings no value. So the hardest thing for me as a coach here in the comeback for guys and that come in here, I can't put them in my chair, right? I can't give them what I have. I can't give them what Mark have. I can't give them what you have. A guy who can have a glass, margarita with your wife and find value in it. Great. Bless you. I don't. And that's just, that's a difference that we have. Now, maybe someday down the road, Janine and I will go out and we'll have one. Maybe we won't. Don't know. But the hardest thing is getting a guy to say, yes, we talk about control. It's in our ads. We help you gain control of alcohol quickly, right? There's no hiding that's what we come to you with. But in order to do that, you can't just be satisfied with a little bit better than before. If last weekend was a 12-pack, if you had 6 this weekend, that's not the recipe for long-term control, in my opinion. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a trained psychologist. I'm a fucking comeback who came in on a day one. Mark asked me, "You ready to get to work?" And I said, "I'm ready to get to work." So for the guys that watch this down the road and the guys that come to us, you could be cute and have a little bit better on the alcohol side. But in my opinion, when I've seen the guys that come in that have the long-term success, ultimately at some point you have to commit to that extended break. So for me, coming in early on, getting into that journal, writing things down, thinking about the things that we ask you to think about, that's the key. If you're going to think about it, right? You get a cool box in the mail, you get a cool t-shirt, you put it on, you put the wristband on, you do whatever you do, and then you do nothing else. All you're doing is, or as a guy walking around with a t-shirt and a wristband. You got to be honest with yourself. Were those fun times really all that fun? Were those examples I'm setting how I want to be remembered and left behind? Those things. Hurry to get back to the pit. We use it all the time. I'm in no hurry to get back to the pit. There's no joy inside of that pit for me. But for some people there is.
What do you think is the reason there is this, feeling of, I need to get back to this? Like, I mean, call it what it is. We've had guys come in here and they're like, where the fuck is the control button? It's day one. What day do you guys teach me to have fucking 4 bourbons and not 10? Like, I was that guy, right? I came in, I drank 7 nights a week. And when I just drank 3, I was like, this is good. I think I got this. And I was lying to myself, and 3 went back to 7, and 7 went to 4, and 4 went to 7, and, just this back and forth. I know where it comes from for me, but what do you think? It's like a fucking inalienable right to be able to drink. And it is, I guess, right? It's all choice. What do you think early on guys coming into this thing is like, what's this like fast forward mindset towards alcohol, and when can I get it back in my life? Like, you guys all paid fucking money to fix a problem. It doesn't make sense to pay money to fix a problem and drink while you're paying money to fix that problem. What do you think that urge to get back into that pit, what do you think that comes from?
Society. the world around us. Everybody, we could walk out in the street here in Lake Geneva right now, and there's a bar, there's a freaking bar in every other. It's people having a tremendously good time, pouring poison into their body. They're having a great time. They look like they're having a great time. You're not inside their head. We've talked about it where like that first half hour, that rush that you get, that you have that first drink, the alcohol just hits your system, and then you do give credit to the guy I mentioned before. You eventually find yourself chasing that first half hour for the next 10 hours. I've said it many times. To me, whenever I drank, it was a race to nowhere. There was no finish line, right? When people drink to black out, there was no finish line. It was just at some point I'll be done with this tonight. And some nights it was when there was nothing left, or some nights when I fell asleep on the couch. But to answer your question, I think the problem is that it looks like it's a really good time when you're in the moment. But if you sit there and you really observe what people look like, and if you think you're any different than what they look like, you're fooling yourself. So, that being said, there are people here everybody in their world around them has no problem with who they were. They have no desire to change. And you get faced with the reality of like, this is who I am. I don't find the value in this, but yet I'm surrounded by people who still do. Now what? Now what do I do? Because everybody in your world still, you were the one with the problem, right? You were the one, me. You're the one that fucking, that took a leak in a sink full of dishes. Like, yeah, that was me. No one else was doing that as far as I know, right? Yeah, I did that. We'll edit this out later.
We're not going to edit any of that out.
Point being, like, maybe you were the one with the issue, but who knows? Like, sometimes people just, they don't know any better. They don't want any better for themselves. This is good enough. I think it's the biggest thing, and the reason that we're here with, this weekend with guys, that are in the Alliance is that they want more. They also understand the key to staying out of the pit is chasing what's next and what's more. I'm in the same situation with Mark as far as I don't see the value in having a drink. Like, Mark will tell you, like, yeah, I love being fucked up. To me, we had this conversation before. I love being fucked up. Not a care in the world. It's the consequences that go along with that action. If we could have an off button, like, you're in fucked up mode. Oh, the phone rang. Oh, shit. Oh, somebody was in an accident. All right. Now I'm sober. If that existed, no problem. Hey, got to go to work. Shut it off. Not hungover, not dragging ass. We go. If that existed, probably wouldn't be a problem. The problem is that there are ramifications to all of our behaviors, whether it's, eating too much, drinking too much, cheating on your wife, whatever the case may be, gambling. All of these things have ramifications. So,
people talk about, what's the magic, I've had people say, like, what's the magic bullet, the secret fucking sauce. The secret sauce to me is intentionality inside of those 7Fs, period, right? How does this improve me in my faith, finances, fitness? Like, you literally do that math before you make every decision. And like you said about consequences, like, when you're fucking mindful of the consequence, you make different choices, right? And I was kind of like mindful of the consequence, but that's when the lie came right in and minimized. It's not that bad. You get away with it. You're 100 no in terms of this. Like, you'll be all right. It's not that bad. It'll be okay. There's other guys worse. I mean, again, right? 7 fucking Fs and then stop fucking lying. When you combine those two, yeah, fucking magic, secret sauce, Harry Potter wand, whatever you want to call it. But those messages to me could not be unremembered or forgotten, right? Like, dude, you can't fucking lie anymore. Like, you can't talk yourself in and out of shit. And when you come in here and really put that time into those 7Fs, I think kind of my 2 cents on where guys come off track, and guys that'll come through, kill it for 3 months, kill it for a year, kill it for whatever, and then stop killing it. It's always, the question is always the same. Like, did you do the work? Not a single guy, or when did you stop doing work? Not a single guy, has fallen back into the pit or whatever you want to put it and been like, yeah, dude, I don't get it, man. I've been doing the work every single day. Like, I was, no one gets up and writes their fucking goals. Hey, today I'm going to get blacked out fucking drunk, in somebody's backyard. That's never a goal anybody writes in the morning. But so what happens is, like, we just stop doing the work. Like, dude, you have not stopped doing the work for 3 years and change. Like, talk about your process. Like, you've changed it. We all do. I've tweaked my morning routine, my nighttime routine. My goals look different. You know, it changes. But like, talk about the importance, I guess, of the work and your process.
I want to ask you a question first because as you were talking, it's in my head. As a guy who came in here who didn't hear the message, which is take it off the menu for a little bit. You did eventually, and it did, ultimately you also chose pockets of life where it does fit. So forget about me for a second and you. When those pockets of life show up, what's the value in it to you?
It's a great question. Really 100% of the time it's with my wife. It's something sort of special. So her and I have been together 20 fucking something years. And I talk about this with guys a lot. What I've always chased for my 20s and my 30s was being 19 years, 20 years old again. And there are occasions where her and I will be together and she'll have a glass of wine, I'll have a wine, she'll have margarita, I'll have margarita. And it takes me back to being 20 years old again in my world, a positive way. We're young, we're 20, we got the whole fucking world ahead of us. We don't have any kids, we don't have any responsibilities. There's a sense of like newness and fun. For us, it's like a friendship thing. I wouldn't say it's like the only way we bond or connect, but like there are just occasions where it takes me back to that 19, 20-year-old, 21-year-old dude that I was and that she was when we started out. That's like a feeling that I get from it sometimes. Her and I have never actually like really kind of talked about it, I guess, in that way. And this is kind of my first time thinking about it, but like it takes me to a youthful time of my life where like I had an entire fucking future in front of me. And to say how often or like, I don't know, but like, there are just occasions, there's pockets. I really, for me, painted like that picture of what control or what the pockets are and then what control looks like. And for me, when you're being honest with yourself, if anybody's going to look at this, stop fucking lying. If you do that exercise, stop fucking lying needs to be all over the page. And really, because we want to talk ourselves into it, well, this is sort of like that, and this kind of looks like that, and this feels a little like that. When you're fucking honest with yourself and you can really evaluate where shit fits and where it doesn't, the same exercise, like, does this add value to me there's occasionally times where it adds value to me and my family with my wife. Like that's probably that though. It's not social. Like it's with her and I, it could be social, but it's just not a big fucking focal point. It's weird. Like we said, fucking obsessed 7 days a week. First thing I thought of, last thing I didn't really think of it by the end of the night, but literally all I thought of, it was the most important thing in my life, to be honest, right? I'd say my kids, I'd say my wife, I'd say work, whatever else. The most important thing every single day was, when can I drink? Telling myself I'm not going to drink tonight, whatever. The whole evolution of my day was based on, when can I drink? What's too early? What's too late? What do I need to fix? What did I fuck up? And how bad did it get last night? What the fuck do I need to do about it? And when my focal point switched to like these 7Fs and maximization of them, that shift happened probably a month or so into it. Like the idea of, this just doesn't add value. I'll tell this one. I don't know if I talk about this one a lot, but towards the end, I was probably 3-4 weeks into this comeback, and my wife went away. She left me and David here at the house. He's probably 4 years old. We got a puppy dog, which is another great story. And I just thought, coming into that week, I'm not going to drink at all. I got locked in. I got plans. I got goals. I got all this stuff. The second we dropped her off, the first fucking thought in my head was like, we got to go drink right now. It was sunny. It was like pool weather. It was in the summertime. And I took the kid to Build-A-Bear, and I just don't drink. And we left Build-A-Bear, and we went to the fucking liquor store is what we did. But it's just going to be a couple beers. It's not a big deal. And these are the stories. These are the lies. Couple beers. It's probably bourbon time. It's 3:00. That's cool. Sitting by a pool with a 4-year-old and a dog, like for 4 hours or whatever, in the sun, drinking my fucking face off. This kid could not swim, at all. And I did that. That was Sunday. I did that Monday. I did that Tuesday. I did that Wednesday. I did Thursday. I did Friday. And still, I'm waking up feeling like, holy fuck, this was really bad. Better not do it tonight. Back into it again. It was a repetition of 20-year career of drinks at that point. And then it was Saturday night. I think we picked my wife up from the airport on that Sunday, and it was actually her birthday. And I woke up that Sunday and I was like, I don't know what it was, but I was like, I cannot do this again. Like, I cannot live like this anymore. Like, it was maybe finally to that point of like this fear of consequence. Like, I can't do. I literally put this kid in fucking massive amounts of danger for 7 straight nights to the point of fucking blackout 8 o'clock. And it just, I don't know if it finally got my attention. I had the door knocked on me for like years, a lot of mistakes, a lot of those moments, but it was really that Sunday morning. It was like, I just can't fucking do this anymore. I don't want to. That's where I got serious about it. But for me, I unplugged it for a while. I got to the bottom of the rest of my shit. I had a lot of fucking issues. I had guilt and shame and lack of confidence. I was a fucking fraud. Like, I had a billion things to fucking go to work on. And once I realized that alcohol is not serving me in solving those problems, then I went to work on those problems, and then I went to work on growth, and then we had our experience, then we had the alliance, and that's where I start seeing like there's fucking multiple other worlds that I can live in, worlds I can create. Like, this fucking alcohol didn't really improve any of that shit, and then it just, I mean, it was almost simple at that point. It's so weird that it took so many fucking punches to the head to figure that out, but when it finally like clicked, like, dude, this just doesn't help me. Like, why would I even do this? And it sounds, I'm saying it like fucking so dopey, but it took as long as it took. And then once it was unplugged for as long as it just really became like a Diet Coke. Like, you have a Diet Coke with lunch and move on. Like, you don't have a Diet Coke and then go back to the house and drink fucking 18 Diet Cokes. Like, I just started to see it for what it was. Like, it's just liquid in a fucking cup. Like, that's it. Good question.
As you were answering that question, I started to think about the guys that come in here, and the guys ask us, you know, what do they really want to know, right? Like, what's the secret? When will I be able to drink with control? And we talk about controlling your thoughts, actions, and emotions. I don't know if it's a perfect litmus test, but you know, if you're thinking about having a drink that night, and you find your way to tonight's the night I'm going to implement control, and you've already written down on paper what that looks like. It's a glass or two with my wife, or it's a beer with a sunset as it goes down, because a lot of the guys write the same things down. When you get to that night and you find yourself walking into the beer store and you buy a 30-pack and you haven't invited the neighbors over and it's just you and that 30-pack, probably not ready to try implementing control that night, right? Literally. That occasion is not the right one, because you've already planned the failure. You've already made drinking a 30-pack an option. And obviously I'm making up the number here, but that point is that. So guys down the road, and we'll probably do calls on this, I don't know. It tastes great, less filling. You got to be self-aware. And, setting yourself up for success and failure. And we talk about not coming in and just, having to and cutting yourself off, but really, what is the value it's going to bring to me in that situation? So to come back to your question from before, I wake up every day. It's easy math, Dave. It's easy math. Are the things that I'm doing going to lead me in the direction that I want to go? Everybody, there's no one way to do this. You just have to do this, and the more you repeat the process of asking yourself, is this taking me where I want to go? It becomes pretty easy. The problem is that we negotiate and we tell ourselves that this is fine, that I don't need to worry about that. That you have to just, a little bit better than before is okay than that train wreck that I was.
I think one of the other problems, as you're saying it, is this going to get me where I want to go? I think it's a lack of vision on where you want to go, right? Like, you and I write our goals every single day. I write my shit every single day. I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there, but I know where I want to go, and I know you do too. And it's that vision, it's that clarity. Like, we talk about the 7 F's, let's go through those every day, but it's those daily 90 and life goals. Like, when you write that life goals, and I know some of yours, you know some of mine, it doesn't matter what yours are or mine are, but mine means so much to me. And I see them so fucking clear. And it's when you cast that future F, that vision, that 5, 10, 25 year vision for where we're at. Like, it's beyond wake up Saturday morning without a hangover. It's where I started. But this vision now is 25 years down the line. It's 10 years. It's a fucking 100 years. Is it 500 years down the line? Like, what impact did we make and did I make? And when you're so clear on that vision, dude, it's 6 beers tonight, 4 beers, 100 beers. Like, does that get me closer? Does a fucking beer tonight, right now, after this, get us close? Like, fuck no, I'm all set, right? Pass. But I think to what you were saying, like, it is that lack of vision, the lack of clarity, the lack of the goal setting. Again, go back to it. Where did we come off? This guy, he fell off or whatever. He fucking slipped down a slippery slope with his ice skates or whatever. The fact of the matter was he didn't write his goals that day. And it doesn't matter the daily goal, right? But it's like that bigger picture. When you're really mathematically doing that every single day, I mean, where does it help me? And going back to that, like, I knew this was no longer like a fucking issue for me when I found out we were going to Aruba. So I came in June, my birthday in November, and my wife got myself and got us a trip to Aruba, and she surprised us with our friends, and the trip wasn't until January. When we talked about it and she gave me the tickets, like, it was not the first thought by like a long shot. Like, I'm thinking, man, I get a fucking blowjob, you get crab legs, like we can swim with dolphins, like shit, Aruba sounds awesome. Like, Googling Aruba, like, is it fucking windy there? What's the weather like in January? Like, it wasn't like, oh shit, do I drink? Like, is this the time? Is this the time to try my control? Like, it didn't even fucking, it was not on the list. Like, I had like 50 fucking things I thought of that I could get to do in Aruba that wasn't, I don't know, maybe I will, like, who gives a fuck? Like, I really knew, like, all right, this shit, like, I see it for what it is now. Like, I see it for what it is, and I see me for who I am. And I never need to be associated or attached to alcohol in the way that I used to. I really always thought that this was my deal, man. However, the rest of my life, I'll be associated with alcohol. I'll be associated with the number of days it's been since. I really thought that this was going to be, it turns out, in a different way. This is something I talk about every single day, but just not for me. I really thought my life was going to be this battle of drink and don't drink and control and relapse. And I was starting to like associate myself with these words, the alcoholic stuff that we're talking about. Like, I'd look at the 6 or 8 things, whatever those core definitions were. And again, lying to myself, talk myself into some, talk myself out of some. What was it? I don't fucking know. But when I realized, like, dude, I don't even care about that on this trip. We might not, I might, who fucking cares? I realized, like, it's not me anymore. Like, I'm over it, man. Like, I'm good with it. It's literally, to me now, it's a level of indifference. That's, if, like you said, like, if you're thinking about when's the time, or there's a wedding, should I not, like, there's going to be an event, should I not, there's a graduation party, there's a barbecue, what if I just have to, like, if it's even on your fucking mind, you're pissing away time. Period. If you have to talk yourself in, out, around, to a number, to anything else, you're out of control. At that point, liquid in a fucking cup is controlling your thought. When you think of it that way, you're out of fucking control. Like, that's it. Negotiation.
Told you I spoke to a guy today, right? Brand new comeback, going to a wedding this weekend. His wife's 6 months pregnant. He's nervous about drinking at the wedding. I said, what are you nervous about? Well, everybody's going to be there and everyone's going to be drinking. They're going to be expecting you to drink, right? So how pregnant is your wife? 6 months. Can you guarantee your wife that she's not going to go into labor tonight? No. Should you really be thinking about having a drink and impressing your buddies? Like, it's the math that we don't do, that we should do. That those Sundays when I kicked off Sunday with a couple beers, I knew exactly where that math problem was going to go. It was going to be me having a hard time waking up on Monday morning, being the best version of myself to help my family, and put in a good, honest Monday morning's worth of work. Yet you find yourself making that decision, that negotiation. It'll just be 1, just be 2, and then you got 12 bottle caps jingling in your pocket. And it'll always be a process for guys. It has to be a process. It's not a one and done. The guys that fall off, that make that decision, that lose that fire, it's because they take their eye off the prize. They still associate alcohol as a prize. When you realize that, the time you get to spend with your kids and with your wife and connecting and all of those things are the real prize, and that this is just a distraction, that's when it clicks. And occasionally, if your perfect life is you get distracted every now and then, God fucking bless you. God bless you. There's plenty of distractions in the world. I love going for a long walk with a nice cigar, right? Does that bring any value to Janine and the kids? On the surface, no. But I like a long walk and a nice cigar. Maybe someday that won't serve me. Right now it does.
This whole that where they fall off, I think it's you and I have constantly pursued like next and next and more and next and more. At the same time, it's about maximizing what we have. Our kids, like, and you got older ones and younger ones, but like in the middle, but like recognizing people say you got 18 summers or 18 Christmases with these kids. I'd even say it's fucking less, right? Like the first two barely count because they're fucking babies. By the time they're, the age better than me, 14, 50, like, so it's a really small, set of time. And when you go all in on that time, it's right there and it's great, but like, it's what's next. Like, both of us are going to have kids out of the house and it's just our wife and I. That's that. Where we go from there? What are we building around that to like nurture that, to build that into the growth? Some guys will come in and think really that checkpoint of the 6 weeks, right? I did my week 6. I'm done now. And that's a place I think where people really shit the bed. I would have shit the bed. I think you would have too. We did go to the experience. We did join the alliance. We started asking ourselves different questions, bigger questions, which for me just kept unlocking more things that I need to solve, to build, to grow, and to create. And we get it. It's so much beyond the alcohol. Early on, guys don't get that. I didn't get that. It was, let me solve alcohol quick. But to solve alcohol and do that and then start looking for more, like the levels, like the ascension, like the path, the process, like is pursuit of what's next. Like what my goals looked like 3 years ago, I mean, it looked like fucking baby road as far as I'm concerned. Like I would look at that. I do look at it sometimes. I'm like, I can't believe that was me. I'm excited to say, what does it look like 1 year from now when I look at what I wrote today? Like, what does it look like 5 years from now when I look at what I wrote today? How big did your vision get in the last 3 years? For yourself, your future, your family. I mean, you started to you say not drink like an asshole and have your wife drive you home on a Sunday. Like, your goals are bigger than that now.
Yeah. I mean, I take it back to what I said before, like at the house that I grew up in. My kids were growing up in that house to some extent. So when I do this work every day, and I'm passionate about this because, listen, like I said, you could walk out on the street right now and there's bars every other store. Those people are going to share the roads with us tonight. I'm not being holier than thou because I'm not proud to say the number of times that I got behind the wheel even after an incident, right? It's just not saying it proudly. It's just the fucking reality of it. If my story and the work that we do with guys can help people make better decisions for their kids, it makes it safer for my kids, for my grandkids, and people down the road. Because this world is a fucked up place. And, I'm never going to be perfect, right? There's always going to be alcohol in the world. There's always going to be people making bad decisions. So the impact that we have, the opportunity that we get, is special. So the vision for me is to continue this mission and make sure people understand that you just don't have to live like that. Period. Don't let it be a burden to you. But you got to come in, you got to be serious, and you got to be ready to work. Stop fucking lying is not a cute catchphrase. We all lie to ourselves. Even to this day, there's two guys sitting at this table. There are lies we still tell ourselves. I'd like to say I'm perfect. I'm not. But what I am is somebody who's honest. And, I know when I'm calling my own bullshit out. It's just working on it every day to make sure that you just keep moving forward. And that's it.
That was absolutely beautiful. Rich, as usual, not much of a follow-up when you say dope shit like that. So I'm going to wrap it up there, I think. I think you and I need to do a couple more of these things. That was a lot of fun. I'm excited that we get to put this out into the world. I think guys see us and they're like, holy shit, these guys, fuck, they're on such another level. Yeah, we are. But we weren't always, right? We started the same way and we went to work every fucking day. Your superpower is honesty and truth. Mine, I like to be honest and true, but mine is a fucking relentless obsession. Mine is, I will not fucking stop. You will have to kill me. And that's my superpower, I guess. But I appreciate your time here. I know you're hungry. You got to eat. And we got a big event tomorrow to get ready for. So thank you very much, Rich. I enjoyed the shit out of that. And I hope the guys down the line get to have some fun with it too.
Me too. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
I am a comeback. If you're not dead, then you're not done. I ain't dead, so I'm here to show everyone. I am a comeback. It's not a disease, it's a choice. So I had to choose, I refuse to lose. I I'ma come back. I